Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show 567, Mr. Somich.
A little yearly Parx trip. Huzzah!
Let's go. Our annual trip
to
Salem, Pennsylvania.
I'm sure nothing weird will happen.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You might look at this at first glance and go, this is really chalky, and it's going to pay nothing. Last year's Pennsylvania Derby, big pick five. I didn't mean to do that so soon. Saudi Crown won the Pennsylvania Derby, even money. 3-1 second choice won the Cotillon. 9-5 favorite won the Gallant Bob. 6-1 third choice won the Parx Dirt Mile. They got a little funky. And then you had a total bomb in the last leg, which was a spread race. It was an allowance race. It paid $83,380. $83,380 is what it paid on the mandatory payout. So it's two things. It's the mandatory payout, and some shit always goes weird at Parx. So that's what we're aiming for today.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? 2 years ago, you had the 99-1 shot that won the turf sprint to open up the sequence. Or was that 2 or 3 years ago? One of the two.
And then they found out, oh, this horse that ran a career best out of nowhere, it was drugged up the wazoo. And they disqualified it. But the payout was already done. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely one of those tracks where you want to take a peek at it. And I like the fact that they do this, the mandatory, the Parx Pick 5, filly high 5, whatever the heck they call it, every single year. It's kind of fun where you have this pool that gets built up because you have to have a single winning ticket. And in a Pick 5, a single winning ticket, especially if it's a 50-cent denomination, is very, very hard to come by. When you add in this Parx and you have a bunch of these 5-horse, 6-horse fields as well in some of those races, you get these massive pools. And that's what we're going to get on Saturday here with this kicking off in the 10th race, where you're going to have the 50-cent filly Big 5 pay out to whatever that pool is. So it's nice because you're going to start out with a little bit of seeded money in the pool, and we'll see where it goes from there. Oh, I thought that was a Survivor buff for a second.
No, my hair is all over the place, and I forgot to do something with it before the show. So
there you go. What is that from?
This is a Smokey the Bear.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a dinosaur. We
got this when we went to the what national park? Sequoia. We went to Sequoia National Park, and was one of the giveaways they had.
Nice.
So,
I like it.
Colton didn't want it. Yeah. Whatever. Anyways, yeah. Big Filly 5 is what it's called. And I know that because I have to cover Parx all the time. But it's not really going to help me that much because this sequence, Big Filly 5, it's all stakes races. 4 of them are graded. 2 of them are grade 1s. Pretty much all out-of-towners that are going to beat the hell out of any local horses. It's like, I want to try.
Well, you say that, but every year a local horse seems to win one of these races and completely turn the thing on its head. It's an interesting sequence because you've got Thorpedo Anna in here, who's going to be a 1-9 shot in her race, maybe 1-5, but a very, very short price. The race before that, there's a really logical single horse that's Lone Speed as well that I think we're going to talk about. So you have to decide where you're going to take your shots, right? In the turf sprint to start it off, I think that one's a little interesting. The last race, definitely an interesting race. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see some tickets here where it's spread, short spread. And it kind of creates a situation where, again, if you can get one big time price home, you do have a shot at hitting something decent size, or you could try and play this really short and play like a $5 ticket that costs $40 with 3 singles or something like that. So there's a couple different ways that you can kind of attack this sequence depending on what you feel about the Pennsylvania Derby, because that I think is the most difficult stakes race. And then if you have opinions here in the first or the last race.
Yep, fully agree with you, and I'm excited to talk about it. It's the Big Filly 5 mandatory payout day on September 21st. Pennsylvania Derby and Cotillion Stakes Day. Boy, I kind of put those backwards. Let's get into it, buddy.
Should they make it the Big Filly 5 with an F because Thorpedo Anna is there?
You know what? We'll rename it. If she wins, we'll rename it that next year. Rise up. All right, kicking off the Big Filly 5 at Parx on Saturday, September 21st. Race 10, it's the Grade 3 Turf Monster Stakes for 10 older males, 2 also eligibles. They're going 5 furlongs on the grass. And if you haven't been paying attention to Parx, like I have, the turf course was absolute dog shit, and they actually shut it down for a couple of weeks to try and fix it, and they were just running one a day leading up to Pennsylvania Derby Day. So hopefully it's fixed and not so pickpocketed or pockmarked. So where'd you go on top?
Yeah, this is a track where you want to be forwardly placed on the turf specifically. A lot of speed generally does very, very well here. And I'm going to kind of lean into that angle with the 3-horse Super Quest. Ran at Saratoga the last 2 times. Ran what really monster races. Went 21 and change, 43 and change in both spots. Won an $80,000 optional claimer, and then came back in a stakes race and got run down by, I'm going to call it 2022 Big Invasion. Like when Big Invasion was good.
Yeah.
That was kind of the version of Big Invasion we saw at Saratoga last time out. I thought that was a really good race by Super Quest to hang on for third. Lukewarm top pick here for me. I don't love the fact that we're carrying 124 high weight for this horse prior to it, 121. So a little concerned that the weight might make a difference here for Super Quest, specifically if he does go so fast early. We'll see if he's able to hold on late. There is also other speed in here, but I do think Super Quest is the speed of the speed in this spot. So I ended up with the 3 on top. What about you?
I hit the all button. I got a couple of singles, and I hit the all button here because I think this is a race where things could get crazy. Topic for me was the 4, Jean Valjean. The fact that this horse, since becoming a turf sprinter back in June 19th, is suddenly 3 for 3 and back-to-back mid-90s buyers. It's like, oh, shit, okay, what were we doing the entire time with this horse on the dirt? Where he was okay. He wasn't bad on the dirt, 4 for 10, or 4 for 11, rather. But they moved him to the turf, and it's like, oh my gosh, he's suddenly a lot better. You have Liz Merriman, who trains. Liz Merriman was the original trainer of Caravel. Then they sold her, and then she ended up with Brad Cox. But Liz Merriman knows how to handle turf sprinters. She's a really solid turf sprint trainer. So I had the 4 on top, but I thought if you could make a case for a lot of these, I almost put, I'm going to make sure you used him. Yeah, the 5, Talented Man. I almost made him the top pick. I think he's interesting. You want to talk about the 5?
Yeah, 4 is going to step up in class. That's the big question around Jean
Yes.
Valjean. We'll see if he's able to do it. What's that Les Miserables reference there?
Yep.
For all you musical fans out there. The 5 Talented Man was my other must-use horse. 12-1 on the morning line for Michael Moore here. And this is a horse where just has not turf sprinted all that much in his career. But if you go back and you kind of focus on those 5 turf sprints, 3 wins, 1 second. It was supposed to be on the turf last time out. Ended up getting rained off the turf. Kind of just draw a line through that one. It's also carrying 127 in that race. Now we're dropping down to 126. So that's a little bit of a weight break there. This is a horse where you go back and you look at the Pimlico race 3 back, and that's really the one I'm focusing on. Is can we improve off of that race? It was a nice win that day. The horse was forwardly placed, but not in the lead when they turned for home, was able to kind of get up late. This is a horse that, to me, is one of those tactical speed horses that's shown the ability to pass 1 or 2 horses in the lane. And that's kind of why I like Talented Man and liked the idea that this horse could have a shot here in this spot. Michael Moore, by the way, turf sprints, 25%, so very good turf sprint trainer. Is yet to break through from a graded stakes perspective, or hasn't won in the last 3 years, but goes to his main jockey here at Parx. They're 23% together, 22% overall. And this is a horse that just, you can kind of, I don't want to draw a line completely through that 5 furlong race, but it feels like if on dirt, this horse wants to go 6, 6.5, 7, and that's where you've seen success. And the 5 furlongs, it felt like it was just a little bit too short. Now we get back to turf where the 5 shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, it's had success at this distance, has won over this racetrack before. So all those are positives for me. I think Talented Man has, at the price, has a pretty big shot here. You said you like Talented Man as well. What jumped out for you with the 5?
I mean, you kind of nailed it. He's a really consistent horse, too. If you look at his running line, he's 8 for 21 lifetime. He's 2 for 2 sprinting on the turf at 5 furlongs at Parx. He won the Jenny Handicap when it was on turf last year. Funnily enough, the edition 2 years ago and the edition this year were both rained off, and Smooth B, the one horse, won both of those. 2 other horses that he used, I mean, obviously all, but the one I mentioned, his better races, I think, have been on the dirt, at least lately, but he has shown up okay in turf sprints. The 1 and the 7 are full siblings. They're both by Wigalia out of the Disco Rico Mare Catarrica Disco. And I thought that if the race had been on turf instead of getting rained off, that the 7-4 Harp was going to win the Marshall Janey Handicap. He was running really well coming out of a 3rd place race at Saratoga in a turf sprint. Surveillance, the winner, came back to win next out. So I think he fits well, though we know what his game is, which is go right to the lead and see if you're fast enough to hold everybody off.
Yeah, and I use the 7 as well. This is the other price that I liked. The 10-1 was the 4th horse on the ticket for me, but one that made sense. And you mentioned it's a go right to the lead horse. That's my biggest concern here. At least the Backwooduk race 4 back, he did pass a horse after being in second early. Wasn't able to hold on to win that race, but they went really fast. They're 21-1, 43-1 for a 6 furlong turf sprint race. That's tough to hold on to those fractions. So 4 Harp has enough speed. It's the question of, are we going to have enough endurance, and what's going to happen when you have horses like Superquest and Jean Valjean that are going to go right toward the lead as well. I agree with you on the 1 Smooth B. I think that's a better dirt horse than turf horse. It's the main reason I didn't use Smooth B. Lost to Grooms All Business back-to-back races. The last 2 times this horse has been on turf. No shame in that. Grooms All Business, a horse we've talked about quite a bit on this podcast, one that we both like. So don't mind those efforts. It's just a question of, can he break through on the turf? Because that's been an issue for him. 0 for 16 on the turf for the 1 Smooth B. 0 for 12 turf sprinting. So not exactly great numbers on the 1 horse there when you look at the turf.
And yet you look at his full brother, the 7, 4 for 13, 9 for 13 in the top 3 on the turf, 2 for 3 sprinting on the turf. Breeding is not an exact science, and this is like a perfect example.
No, it's not. And they're also like, Smooth B is more of the I'm going to stalk and close type pace, and 4 Harp is more of I'm going to go right out to the front, and obviously speed and turf sprints a big separator. So that's it's like you said, it's not an exact science. You don't know what type of horse you're going to get and what surface they're going to like, and you have different running styles on the 1 and the 7, and the 7 just is more beneficial when you're talking about turf sprints, because it's hard to be a Smooth B type horse and be dominant in the turf sprint style just because of how he rides. I am going to take 1 horse that I think wants to come from off the pace, because there is quite a bit of speed. We've mentioned 3 or 4 speed horses already. Give me the 8 horse here, Sembai, as the other horse. This is one where he is able to stalk and pounce, beat 4 Harp, 2 back at Backwooduk in that 6 furlong turf sprint that we were talking about. Just missed last time, 3rd place, missed by a head there. Christophe Clement ships this one in. Irad takes them out. All that's positive here. Interesting that this was a Clement horse that didn't start on the turf, but kind of became a turf sprinter later in the career. And since switching over to turf sprinting, we've seen the best races of this horse's career. I think it's one that just fits very well with the race setup, the race shape, as well as kind of the class level here. Not trying to take too big of a shot, but at the same time, definitely deserves stakes company when you're talking about turf sprinting. So ended up going 3, 5, 7, 8 to try and get through here. If you want to add 1 horse to my ticket, the 10 horse would be the horse I would add in any of the races. Boats are rocking. I just couldn't get the 10 on the ticket, but that's one that I am a little bit scared of. It's another speed horse. The outside draw, I think, is a little bit tough, especially since he hasn't been able to pass horses. So it's a horse that kind of needs to be on the lead or be very close to it. But I thought ran well last time, ran well 2 back, has run well at Parx, run well at the distance. So there's enough to like there, but I just couldn't quite get it on the ticket, just because I do think it's a need the lead style horse.
Yeah, need the lead. You've got Paco Lopez aboard, who's very, very, very confident with how he handles them. He can get a horse to win gate to wire, but this one's going to have to really break sharp. And he's coming out of a race, the Parx Dash, that was, there was marred by a breakdown. That was the last race they had at Parx on the turf for a few weeks because of how poor the conditions were, and there was a really bad breakdown in it. But the winner of that race that the 10's coming out of is the 6, Allegon. And I know that's a horse that Dennis mentioned liking, the 3, 4, 6, 8. I saw Michael Ellison had the 3, 8, and 10 on his tickets. The 6 won the Parx Dash, which is the local prep for this race. And the 5th place horse from that event did come back to win next time out. So you've got that angle to go for. But yeah, I'm with you. The 10, obviously, I'm hitting the all button. If the 10 wins, it wouldn't be a huge surprise. But I think the draw really hurts this horse.
Yeah, that was the main reason why the horse ended up off my ticket. Like I said, it's a speed horse that wants the lead, and you're drawing the outside post in a race that has a ton of speed. It's just hard to envision the trip where if the 10 is on the lead, isn't 3 wide, right? Because I don't think he can clear by a full length and get to the rail. And if that's the case, I think it just makes the 10's life ultra difficult here. I had 4 AEs. Did you look at any of the AEs here, or are you going to keep the all button if one of them does draw in?
Oh, yeah, I'll still keep the all button. That's fine. The 14 is an MTO, so we'll forget about that one. But the 12 and 13, both from a really sharp local barn, Ernesto Padilla Preciado, they're stepping up in classes, and they're trying turf. They're combined 0 for 5, but they both projected to have a lot of speed. I think that's significant. So does the 11, Foxtrot Anna. So they're intriguing. The 12 and 13, they've really taken a step forward since they landed in this barn, but neither of those horses have been on the turf either at this point.
Yeah, the 11 would be the one that jumps out to me. If the 11 does draw in, I've got a little bit of interest here as well. Has been able to stalk and pounce. So and that wide draw is you're going to have to stalk and pounce if you want to be able to win this race from one of those spots. So yeah, the 11 would be the only one I would consider. And yeah, the 14's MTO. If this race does end up off the turf, which I don't expect, it's 14 and 1 for me. Really, those are the two that I would key.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. Yeah. Don't ever ignore the MTOs in races like this. Second leg of the Big Philly 5 at Parx on Saturday, September 21st, race 11. It's the Grade 2 Gallant Bob Stakes. We've got 8 3-year-olds sprinting 6 furlongs on the main track. I will say the 8 always into mischief is cross-centered in a stakes Saturday at Churchill Downs. I haven't heard if they've picked where they want him to run yet or not. If you guys in the chat know, let us know. But all that's to say, we're singling Ben Tornado, right? The one horse.
Yeah, I'm singling the one here. Biggest concern for me, it maybe doesn't make the lead and then has to come from off the pace. What we saw in the maiden special weight debut was able to win from off the pace, pass some horses 2 races later in restricted stakes there at Gulfstream. The last race I thought was really good coming back at Charlestown, and it's not a track where I would think that Ben Tornado was going to necessarily love just because of the setup and how 7 furlongs is run there at Charlestown versus another track. Now we're getting to a more traditional 6 furlongs here at Parx Racing. I don't mind the draw at all. Feels like this is a horse that either is going to go right to the front or is going to break well and then sit behind Buccinero, the 3 horse, and then be able to make a move around the turn. I think you had a lot of excuses in that last race for running second. Not just the fact that, yes, Charlestown's a little unique. Was also wide for the most majority of that race, was in the 4-path around the second turn. And it was also first time off a Saudi Derby. And that Saudi Derby has come back with Forever Young, who clearly a very good horse, Bookham Dano, who's run very well since then. So that 3rd place looks very good for Ben Tornado as well there. And I am not singling the next race. And so I wanted to try and get a single here so I could spread out in the other legs and not go crazy next race, but at least take a shot with somebody I like.
So trainer Jose D'Angelo is very solid, right? 17% win rate. What I think of D'Angelo, what he's best at, it's you give him a dirt sprinter. You give him a dirt sprinter that's really fast early. That's what D'Angelo's best at training, and that's what you've got in the Saudi Derby. Just to build off of what you mentioned, that was the Saudi dirt track was extremely closer friendly. Like, remember what happened in the Saudi Cup? Buscador, Ushba Tesoro, the opposite of forwardly placed. So the fact that he finishes 3rd behind 2 horses that were closing on him in a field of 12, I thought it was a really great effort. And then, yeah, you mentioned Charlestown, 2 turns, $500,000 stakes. The fact that Irad was going there, like that Irad was on this horse and then comes back here to ride at Parx, like, to me, that spoke volumes about the talent. So yeah, same with you. I'm going to single Ben Tornado. If he loses, who's the horse that's most likely to upset him, and how does it happen?
I mean, I think it's the 3 horse going gate to wire. Buccinero is the other horse that I'm interested in this spot. I was 1-3-6, so I had a little bit of interest in Practically Dark as well for Safi, who ships in. Is going to come from off the pace and draws Flavian Pratt as well. But my like the way the 1 loses is that the 3 clears, gets inside of the 1. The 1 has to give up a little bit of ground, and all of a sudden he's 2 lengths back going into the stretch and can't run down the 3 Buccinero. Look, Buccinero would have to keep improving, but 3 for 3 locally at the track, so loves this Parx track. Lascano rode last time, going to ride back this time. The distance a little bit more of a concern. 0 for 4 going 6 furlongs, which is kind of interesting because his won at 5.5 and his won at 6.5, but has never been able to win at 6, which is just kind of weird. But lost to Bookham Dano 2 back, then came back here and ran very well in what is the prep for this race essentially. So I think Buccinero is the horse that beats him if he does get beat, just because of pure speed. The 6, like I said, Practically Dark, the other horse I'm interested in, was in that race where Buccinero went gate to wire, but didn't break very well in that spot. I think with a better break has a better shot of being able to come from off the pace. 2 for 2 or 2 for 3 at the 6 furlong distance. And you got to love the fact that Pratt jumps aboard this horse as well.
Yeah, I was exactly that same direction. 1-3-6 is how I was going to play this one. Pratt being on board. Feels like he's doing Safi a favor, but we'll see. Pratt's won on less in races like this before. 3rd leg of the Big Philly 5 at Parx on Saturday, September 21st, race 12, the Grade 1 Cotillion Stakes. 7 3-year-old fillies and 1 grizzly bear going to go 1 mile and a 16th on the main track. And I'm going to single Thorpedo Anna. Not a shock, I don't think, but you're not. Who else are you using with the grizzly bear?
Yeah, I put Thorpedo Anna on top, so not going completely crazy. But one thing I want to just note. What's up with, so we talk about buyers and good buyers, bad buyers, like in kind of some races that go back and forth. What's up with the fact that Thorpedo Anna runs a 111 in the Travers, yet she's never run 100 before? like it kind of makes you feel like the filly buyer is just not fully accurate of what they are actually running in some of those cases. Now, she hadn't reached the bottom of her tank in any of those races either. She probably could have been faster in each of them. But the fact that she had never run 100 yet, we're all like, no, she can totally run with these boys. Like, this is not a crazy thing. And then pops a 111 for the Travers, I thought was interesting when you actually look at the page.
Yeah, I'm with you. There were people on our YouTube page that were commenting saying, like, no way in hell Thorpedo Anna's going to win. No way. And okay, they were right that she didn't win, but she came within a head of it. If that wire's 50 yards further, she's probably the winner. But yeah, everyone's like, oh, she can't hit these speed figures. Like, they just never had to get to the bottom of her. And then so now she cuts back. She faces straight 3-year-old fillies. You know, I mean, if this was a mile and an eighth, maybe you feel better about the cutback than a mile and the 16th, because maybe a speed horse or someone that kind of gets the jump on her in here. Is that what you were thinking? But you used the 3 Tarifa. I'll kind of spoil it.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I love Tarifa. I was on Tarifa in the Oaks. I was on Tarifa before Tarifa was a thing, and the 2 or 3 prior races to the Oaks as well. So she's a horse that I have liked ever since that $100,000 optional allowance. I had her in the Rachel Alexander. I had her in the Fairgrounds Oaks. She didn't break very well. She rushed up into the pace. She was in 10th early in that Kentucky Oaks, and then she's not seen for a long time. To me, that's one of those races where you just kind of draw a line through it. Came back, ran last time out, ends up running second in a race where, yeah, I wish she'd run a little bit better. But it was a short field of just 5. And I'm willing to say, okay, she's going to be significantly better second off the layoff. That was also going 7 furlongs. She's a better horse going 2 turns. I think the mile and 16th distance is a benefit to her versus Thorpedo Anna. And I think that just a little more rested of a horse here is a benefit to her versus Thorpedo Anna. Like, we talked about how great Thorpedo Anna has been, and she has been absolutely phenomenal. She also, like we said, has never emptied the tank before. Now she emptied the tank against the boys going 1.25 miles. And I'm not saying they're turning around fast here, because it's about a month in between races. You still got to wonder, like, what's left in there? Is she going to be able to come back and run her best race off of that? And then you have a Tarifa who is rested, who is in a lot of ways is a new shooter in this field, because she's not been running all of these summer races that all these other horses have. And you got Brad Cox coming in with Flavian Pratt aboard. This is why Pratt's here, right? I mean, it's to ride Tarifa in my mind. And so if that's the case, then you got to think that that this is a pretty good spot for her, and that the connections expect that she's going to run well. And if she does, then yeah, I think she's got a legitimate shot of knocking off Thorpedo Anna. And the reason I singled here, I singled the previous race and not singled Thorpedo Anna here, is because Thorpedo Anna is going to be 1-9, 1-5, and everyone's going to single. So if you want to take a shot at one of the favorites, Thorpedo Anna is the best favorite to beat. Now, it doesn't mean she's going to lose, but she is the best one to take a shot at. And I at least have enough question marks in my mind about what we see after that 1.25 mile Travers from her, that I'm willing to take a shot with a horse who I think is rested and it has a shot at running career best race, and it has a benefit of the 1 16th versus 1.25 miles or 1 1/8, where I think we know Thorpedo Anna is the best horse.
So tell me if this sounds correct or backwards. But to me, Thorpedo Anna is the most likely winner. Tarifa is the most likely to upset her. But if I'm playing exacta, I'm going 6-1 cold, because if Tarifa is just chasing Thorpedo Anna around the track, I think she falls off a cliff, off the turn. And Power Squeeze is going to do 2 things. She's going to take back, and she's going to come flying with a late kick. I don't think she's good enough to get up there to win this race unless the 3 and 6 just battle each other into submission. But and again, at 1 mile 16th, I know she's 2 for 2, but I think Power Squeeze's kick is better going a little bit longer. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting race, because I think the 7 and 8 are the 2 most likely leaders into the first turn. Mystic Lake specifically, who comes in for Safi Joseph coming out of sprint races, I think is the horse that tries to get to the front. I think Gunsong is the one who kind of pushes it. If you look at Gunsong's last race over this track going a mile, went 22 seconds in the opening quarter. You got Mystic Lake, who's capable of running a 21.3 second, which she did in the victory ride before ending up losing to Emery that day. I think it's the outside 2 horses that dictate the pace, which could make Thorpedo Anna's trip very interesting here, because if they both cross over on her, Tarifa gets the pocket, and Thorpedo Anna all of a sudden either gets shuffled back to 4th or 5th, or she's sitting too wide of Tarifa the entire race. I think that the setup here for Tarifa is better than the setup for Thorpedo Anna. And if she tries to go to the front, I think Mystic Lake is the one who absolutely goes nuts with her up front and just says, okay, I'll take it to you. Now, there's definitely a world where Mystic Lake clears, Thorpedo Anna sits right behind her and wins by 10 lengths because she gets the run on her. But if Gunsong, I think, is the key to this race early. If Gunsong decides to go and Mystic Lake and Gunsong both clear Thorpedo Anna, her life gets a lot more difficult going into that first turn because there is other speed inside of her that can keep her off the rail if she's trying to get right behind those two. And you also have multiple horses crossing over in front of your face in that first furlong of the race. That makes it difficult for her as well. So what Gunsong does, I think will kind of dictate a lot of what happens in here. From a cold exacta, like I can't really disagree with you. Like I think Tarifa is clearly the second best horse in this race. But Power Squeeze's last couple of races have been very, very good races. And so I don't hate the idea of saying, okay, well, I'm going to take, Thorpedo Anna on top, who's likely, like you said, the most likely winner and I would say inarguably the best horse in the race. And I'm going to put the second most consistent horse in here versus a horse that wasn't great, Tarifa, off the layoff, and now you're getting second off. But I think Tarifa's overall the second best horse, and I think Brad Cox isn't putting her in here off that race if he doesn't think she's ready to fire a big one.
So one thing I want to touch on before we move on, Jeff Bauer, not saying that you're incorrect. I think I disagree with you on this, but Jeff says, I think the fact this field turned up so solid, despite Thorpedo Anna being here, says maybe she's not 100%. It's possible. My counter, Jeff, is that this is a grade 1 race and all of these horses are looking like the more grade 1 placings they get on their resume, the better they look for selling as broodmares. So the 7 is not grade 1 placed yet. Not grade 1 placed yet. The 5's looking for that. The 4 is looking for that. The 3 is looking for that. Like that's a big thing for Tarifa. Power Squeeze is the other grade 1 winner, but even the 2 for Rapoli still looking for that grade 1 placing. So I think between that and then Kenny McPeak says, they asked him, are you surprised that 7 horses showed up? And he said, no. He said it's a great incentive to get grade 1 placed and run for $200,000 in second or $100,000 in third. So he's confident. He's saying he understands why people are taking shots for the minor placing because it's still worth it.
Well, and I think you buried the lead there. I agree with you. Everyone wants grade 1 placing. Show me another $1 million 3-year-old filly race. I'll wait. Like
it's just the Kentucky Oaks. Yeah, that's it.
They don't exist. Like this is it. So the money aspect of it, I think, is 100% on there. And like even if you think about it, okay, well, let's say second place is $200,000, right? How big of a race does it take? How big of a purse to get a $200,000 first place race?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you got to have at least $350,000 in the purse. There's not that many $350,000 races for 3-year-old fillies that are running right now. And so I think the money is the main draw of why people came here and took a shot, even knowing that Thorpedo Anna was going to be in this spot.
Yeah, if I had a filly that I thought could get second or third in this race, I'll run second or third to Thorpedo Anna all the time because she's running in the biggest races possible.
And let's cross Thorpedo Anna out. Let's say she scratches.
Okay.
How wide open is this race?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the other part of it is that I think Tarafa is the second best horse, but you could make a case for Power Squeeze. I think the 5 is really interesting. I think the 7's interesting. Like there are different directions you could go if Thorpedo Anna wasn't in here. So if I'm the connections and I'm sitting there, I could talk myself into we have the best shot of anybody of running second in this race, and that's $200,000. That's like I said, that's like winning a $350,000 stakes race. And so the money and then what's underneath and the question marks there, I think are the two biggest draws.
The penultimate leg of the Big Philly 5 at Parx on Saturday, September 21st, race 13 is the grade 1 Pennsylvania Derby. And check out this. You thought 7 versus Thorpedo Anna was big. We got 11 for the Pennsylvania Derby. I love this. Mile and 1/8 race. $1 million the purse. Favoritism is on the 7 Dragoon Guard at 9-5, but I think you could make a case for several horses, so make one for your top pick.
Yeah, I'm going to try to. I'm throwing Dragoon Guard out. I'm not going to use the 9-5 favorite here, and part of it is I think this horse is going to be overbet. I like this horse has beat up on what we'll call the easier races in here, running last time or 2 times back in the Indiana Derby, winning that, then came back for the West Virginia Derby, won that. I think that the field is just significantly tougher than what Dragoon Guard has faced in those last 2 races. Wants to be in the lead. There is a ton of pace inside and outside of her. So I think it's going to be more difficult for her to be able to have him to be able to have a comfortable length lead at every single call, which is something he has had the benefit of the last couple of races. A top pick, I'm going to go to the outside. Outside of Dragoon Guard. I'm going to go with Unmatched Wisdom here. 8-1 in the morning line. Flavian Pratt aboard for Chad Brown. The race 2 back in the Curlin I thought was phenomenal. come from off the pace in a 1 1/8 race, the prior race to that, an N1X allowance to be able to get the job done. Ran into fierceness and Thorpedo Anna and Sierra Leone in the last race. I'm willing to throw that one out, especially since he contested the pace. Didn't get the best start in the world. It wasn't a pretty race when you look at it. Now you get Flavien Prat back aboard. Obviously not going to knock Irad Ortiz, but you like the fact that Flavien Prat jumps back aboard on this one here. And I think the Unmatched Wisdom has the chance to be the best horse in here. And you're sitting at an 8-1 price. If you're a numbers person, right? Dragoon's Guard's race is like career best, was tied in the last 3 races, 91 from a buyer perspective. Unmatched Wisdom has run a better race 3 of his 4 races in his career. And so you can kind of look at it that way and just say, well, I don't trust a horse that looks like a dead need the lead type in a race where there's a lot more speed in a bigger field than what we've been facing the last 2 times, when numerically it needs to improve to be able to win the race and is the favorite. And you kind of stack all of those things on top of each other here. And I'll go with the 8 Unmatched Wisdom. Not overly confident. Going to go 4 deep here, but none of them is going to be the 7 Dragoon Guard. What about you? I
went 2 deep, and we have the same top pick. Yeah, I love that. I went into this. I'm a huge fan of Dragoon Guard. I have been all year. I was so sad that he got hurt, because that debut race when he missed just by a neck to Out of the Conqueror, who hasn't been much as a 3-year-old, but you remember out of that race, Out of the Conqueror went and won the Springboard Mile. So a very good horse at that point to miss by a neck, and then it's just crushed his competition. But it's been a much lesser competition than what he's facing here. He beat Stronghold as the 5-2 second choice, who neither of us are using, way out in the 11 post, but he beat Stronghold pretty handily in the Indiana Derby. So the distance not going to be an issue because he won the West Virginia Derby 1 1/8, but it is a step up. So, and also the buyer speed figures. He went 88 for winning at Keeneland in 2000 or on April 21st, and then 91. Like, you could make the Thorpedo Anna argument that they haven't ever had to go to the very bottom of him, but they have used him more than what Thorpedo Anna had been used in her races prior to the Traverse Stakes. So I went 8-7. I agreed with everything that you said about Unmatched Wisdom, and I think that this is going to turn into, I think, a race of the jockeys, like who's going to be the smartest jockey here, because they have 7 and the 8. They both like to go, but the 8 I think is faster if he wants to be. If you watch the Curlin Stakes, he was on the rail. He didn't break the best, but Pratt was like, shit, we can't get buried on the rail in the Curlin Stakes. Like, he hustled and the horse responded, saved the inside position, and ended up winning gate to wire. So if he breaks on top of Dragoon Guard, he can cross over and lead. He probably wants that race 3 back when it was the allowance, when Pratt just got to sit off a little bit, and then just let Dragoon Guard go the second that they have to really ask him, and he finally gets looked in the eye in the stretch for the first time. Woo, that's when Unmatched Wisdom, I think, just takes off.
Yeah, I think the price is right. We'll see what the pace projects out to be. I mean, I mentioned there's speed inside and outside. You've got the 2-horse seeds, the Gray, who has all the pace that you could want, consistently runs those 47 first halves in these longer races, so can push it there too. And the 3-horse, who's 20-1, has, in my mind, 0 chance of winning, 100% of pace presence. I mean, went 22-47 going a mile here at Parx, went 22-1, 43-3 last time out, and was just off that pace from a sprinting perspective, and has no chance of winning this race if Lonesome Boy's not on the lead. So I think it's going to be one of those situations where Dragoon Guard is going to have a lot against him from a can you go gate to wire perspective. I think this is going to be a fast pace. Parx is one of those tracks where, yeah, speed can hold, but guess what? So can horses who come from off the pace. Like, you can win coming from off the pace at Parx. You see collapses there. That's one of the reasons I kind of like the 4-horse here. Timeout, 10-1 on the morning line. I'm asking for Joel Rosario to give me the least Joel Rosario trip ever. We're not going to the front. We're not going way to the back. I want Timeout to be sitting in that 6th place, 5th place type spot on the rail behind the speed here. Let the 2, let the 3, let the 7, let the 8 go, and just sit there and get first run from that 4 post for Timeout. This is a horse where it was getting better, ran in the Curlin. I thought ran pretty well in the Curlin, all things considered. It was 5 wide at one point in that race. It was a 6-horse field, and Unmatched Wisdom took them gate to wire, kind of got the trip that Unmatched Wisdom wanted. I'd like the next race out. It was an N1X allowance against 3-year-olds and up, so was facing Olders as well, faced Game Warden, who ran a very nice race that day. The only time this horse has run against 3-year-olds was in the debut and then in that Curlin race. So we're getting back to that age group, which I think is a difference here for Timeout as well. And I think Timeout gets a phenomenal trip. So I like the price here on the 4 at 10-1. I'm just hoping we get the right ride from Rosario.
Famous last words. I hope we get the right ride from Rosario. Speaking of pace horses, you did use the 2 Seas of the Gray. What trip does he get? How does he win? Talk to me about the 2. I'm not saying it's a complete toss for me, but try to convince me about the 2.
Well, I think you kind of look at the Pate Mile. That's the trip that you want to get here, where the Seas the Gray is able to sit in that on the rail behind. My guess is Lonesome Boy and Dragoon Guard are the ones that go. That the 7 and the 3 are out there. If Seas the Gray can sit right behind them, that's the trip where Seas the Gray can get the win. And I do think there is a world where Seas the Gray sits that trip. I think that you're going to see Torres get out of the gate well, try and save ground into the first turn. And if I'm correct that Lonesome Boy goes nuts here early, I think you easily are able to inherit the pocket if you're Seas the Gray. So I would want to let Lonesome Boy go and just sit right behind him, force the 7 too wide, force the 8 to sit next to you too wide, and then see if you can open up in the pocket and be able to make the run there. So I am not a big Seas the Gray person. The other thing is this is a class drop for Seas the Gray, right? If you look at what Seas the Gray has run against in the last 5 races, it was the Bluegrass against Sierra Leone and just a touch, which turned out to be a pretty good race. Then you go in the Pate Mile, you win that. You go in the Preakness, you win that. Then the next out, you're in the Belmont against Dornoch, Mindframe, Sierra Leone. Then you jump into the Jim Dandy and its fierceness in Sierra Leone. Now you get back to the lower level of this 3-year-old class, and I think Seas the Gray fits very well in the lower level of this 3-year-old class. So I think that the 2 has a chance to sit that 3rd place pocket trip and be able to get run at the top of the stretch against some tiring horses.
I'm not saying he can't do it, but I'm worried that Seas the Gray is just completely gassed out at this point. Like the Belmont,
Lucas. That's possible.
I mean, yeah. So he ran Derby Day, Preakness, Belmont. Like no one else tried the Triple Crown like that, and he, there's a reason Mystic Dan after the Preakness McPeak said no, we're done. He's tired. Like D-Wing goes, nah, he got 4 legs that are still touching the ground. Send him in there. So I'm worried that he's too tired. It would be, what you outlined is possible. I just don't think he's got anything left after those last 2 races.
Well, on the positive side, this is his biggest break since October 14, 2023. It was the longest time he had head off between races since his 2-year-old campaign.
That's sad.
It's crazy though. I'm happy he skipped the Travers, right? Because that at least gives him the chance to be able to come back here with a little bit more gas in the tank. And again, this is a drop in class for Seas the Gray. Like we talked about Dragoon Guard stepping up in class. I don't think anyone else is taking as big of a drop in class as the 2-horse Seas the Gray is, and which is crazy when you're talking about drop in class and you're $1 million or you're a grade 1 $1 million race here at Parx, but very much is a drop in class for the 2-horse.
A horse that's taken a step up in class, but does have a lot of back class is the other ticket, sort of a horse on your ticket. So you went 4 deep. We've talked about the 2, we've talked about the 4, we've talked about the 8. Protective off of a maiden win, going a mile and a quarter against off-turf horses at Saratoga as the nickel favorite, is now going to be on your ticket at 8-1.
Yeah, got the job done though. Let's at least be positive. Got the job done as a nickel favorite.
I'm knocking him at nickel favorite. I went, whoa.
Yeah, doesn't happen all that often. Actually lost as 85-cent favorite the prior race to that, so that wasn't wonderful. This is a horse where like Rapoli and Pletcher thought highly of this horse from the jump. It runs well in a maiden special weight at Saratoga back in the 2-year-old season. We don't see this one until early 3-year-old season. Had some issues getting back on the racetrack. Runs at Tampa Bay. They decide to jump right into grade 2 company, goes into the Wood Memorial, goes into the Peter Pan, runs in the Belmont. Okay, let's take a step back, right? Let's give this horse a chance to actually work into himself. Runs pretty good in the 1 1/8 race at Saratoga from the outside post there in a race where there wasn't a ton of speed, and this horse just kind of chased all the way around and wasn't able to get by It's a Miracle late in that race. I think the fact that this horse won actually makes a difference. Like we talk about maiden horses that run 20 times, they win a race, and then all of a sudden the light bulb goes on. I think it's going to be good for Protective to actually understand what it's like to win a race. I think that when you jump up in class and you're a maiden taking on graded stakes company all the way up to the Belmont, you kind of need to take a step back and win a race before you go back into that graded stakes company. And so I think that it was the right choice to do that with Protective. I realize Rapoli's taking a little bit of a shot here, but the fact that you get Irad on board for this one, and the price to me is right here at 8-1 as well. A horse that has the ability to run a big race or a good enough race and be able to, again, like timeout, sit that trip where you're sitting behind the speed and getting first run, see if you're able to make up the ground late. So I thought that the 4 and the 5 similar horses here. I like the 4 a little bit more, but I did want to go 4 deep here and try and get the 5 on the ticket.
So interesting note about Protective, sold for $250,000 as a yearling. 3 other siblings that we at least have information on. None of them, actually 2 of them never made it to the racetrack. 1 is 0 for 9. Protective's the cheapest auction purchase of any of them. 1 went for $725,000. 1 went for $700,000. 1 went for $350,000. So $250,000 looking like the bargain play here on Protective. That's just that's insane. Looking at
that is crazy. Grace Hall is a pretty good horse, though. I mean, she's the dam, and she was multiple graded stakes placed. I think did she win a grade 1? I thought she did.
She was third in the Kentucky Oaks, but she won the Delaware Oaks, Indiana Oaks, and Gulfstream Park Oaks. So she won 3 different 3-year-old graded stakes dirt routes.
She also won the Spinaway, so she did win a grade 1. That was a 2-year-old going 7.
Okay.
Yeah, and she ran second in the Vanity, which is this mile and an 1/8 race at Santa Anita. I pulled her up, so I can look now. But yeah, like was consistently a very good horse, and so I understand. And she also won early and won long, and she won short. So I understand why her children would go for it a lot. But it's crazy that this was the cheapest one.
Real quick, I do want to touch on Shoddy's a big fan of Doc Sullivan, a horse that 3 and 4 races. So it's a New York bred, really good, consistent New York bred horse. Never missed the money in 9 starts, has 4 wins, 4 seconds. Never missed the exacta this year. Problem is he's faced Pandagate twice, lost both times, including as the favorite, which he shouldn't have been the favorite in the New York Derby against Pandagate.
Yeah, 3 times. Lost to Pandagate in February too.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 3 times lost to Pandagate. Pandagate gave everything that he could to Forever Young, so I guess Shoddy's kind of connecting the dots here, but I get why they're taking the shot with him. I didn't consider the one much of a threat, at least to win.
I don't love the fact that we've just been in state bred company like that. There's not much behind Pandagate and Doc Sullivan in any of those races. Now did win the one race where we were in open 80K N1X claimers. That was at Backwaduck in May when you're not getting the best horses in the world at Backwaduck. So that would be my only other knock on it. I do think the pace sets up right for Doc Sullivan. I think that you're going to see a horse that wants to come from off it and is not as forward in Elise, but has that tactical speed, and the rail draw matters here. Don't mind the distance at 1.1 miles. I think that's fine for this one. I think the faster they go early, the better for Doc Sullivan. I think he's one of those horses that wants the pace to kind of come back to him, and the best route for him to win would be going in that. I don't hate it. But I don't love Doc Sullivan either. I considered Doc Sullivan. Like I would rather use Doc Sullivan than Stronghold or Dragoon Guard, right? I would much rather take one of those shots. Doc Sullivan lost to one other horse, Curtis Manlow. Did lose. Lost to Antonio Venice too. That was the only other horse beside Pandagate that Doc Sullivan, and Big Prankster. I like Big Prankster. I missed that horse. That was a fun horse. I missed that horse being good, I should say. So I wouldn't be shocked if Doc Sullivan wins. But I for me too, like with the way I'm trying to play this ticket, I didn't want to go crazy from a pricing perspective. Like this isn't a sequence I want to spend $180 on, right? I want to try and keep this a little bit trimmer because there are those 2 favorites, one that I like very much and the other one that I think is beatable but is clearly the most likely winner.
5th and final leg of the Big Philly 5 at Parx on Saturday, September 21st, race 14, the Parx Sprint Stakes. 11 older males going 6.5 furlongs on the main track. Close it out with us. Who's your top pick?
Top pick is going to be the number 6 here. Give me Super Chow. Cross-entered at Laurel. I think is going to run here. Have you heard anything about Super Chow here at Laurel? I
haven't. I was assuming the horse would run here.
Yeah, I kind of expected it. This is a drop in class in a lot of ways for Super Chow. If you look back, ran in 4 straight graded stakes before running in a $100,000 overnight at Delaware last time. Didn't break very well in that. Raced up and then kind of quit late. Dean Delivers ends up getting the win there. Prince of Jericho in second, and then Gordon Knott runs third there, who's back into this spot. If Super Chow shows up with any of the previous 4 races to that, I think Super Chow is awfully tough here. And so it's really the break for Super Chow. How are we going to be able to get out of it? And what are we going to be able to do once we're there? I do think that Super Chow makes the lead here, though, and I like the 6 on top. Don't love the price of 7-2, but do like the 6.
So I'm looking, the race Friday at Laurel has a $63,000 purse. It's a 6 furlong allowance race. And Super Chow, the 2-1 favorite, so would probably be one. Actually, not even the favorite. I apologize. Prince of Jericho is there as the favorite. Interesting morning line. I don't know that I'd agree on that. But yeah, anyway, Super Chow, top pick for me. Here's what I'm worried about. I love the freshening. I love the horses coming in fresh off of that kind of dud effort at Delaware Park. My concern is that if you look at the wins that he's had, the Maryland Sprint, the Tom Fool, the Toboggan, one thing that's common with those 3 big wins, it was a muddy or sloppy sealed track.
Mm-hmm.
His fast track, he was 3rd in the Carter to post time, great horse. Loses to Dean Delivers, who's a really fantastic horse. He's 4 for 4 in Dirt Sprint Stakes this year. I'm just nervous that he's a better horse when it's wet, and he's going to be a short price here.
I mean, I don't fully disagree with you, but I mean, Super Chow is also 6 for 16 on a fast track.
It's true.
So you yes, 3 for 4 on the off track, but the career high buyer on off and fast is the same. So it's one of those where I'm like, okay, all right, I can't go crazy with that one. I think the speed makes the difference here. We'll see if we end up getting rain, but I think the speed makes the difference for Super Chow being able to get out in front. That being said, I did spread here. I went 4 deep. Give me the 5 Recruiter here in second. Ran second to my buddy B, who's back in this spot. The local prep was an 80 cent on the dollar favorite that day, and just kind of fought pretty hard throughout the entire race. I think it's better having this bigger field for Recruiter, or at least having more of a pace to chase. I think Recruiter doesn't want to set the lead, but wants to sit right off the lead. I think that's what we're going to get from Paco here. You look back at the race 2 back at Monmouth, just a 5-horse field, but they went 21-3, 44-3, and Recruiter was basically able to just fly right by all of them. So I think that the 5-horse gets a better setup here in a bigger field. So I was 6-5, did end up going 4 deep here. Who was your second pick?
So we only agreed on one horse in here. That's kind of funny to me. Second pick for me, rather. Ron Esterman brought him up, is the number 3, Twisted Ride. Tremendous back class for this horse. Last 2 races, a grade 1, 4 go. Okay, last of 7 in there, but it was Mulligan, Gun Pilot. Big effort, huge effort from Mulligan, who's going to train up to the Breeders' Cup Sprint out of that. Race before that was 3rd, going 6 furlongs, a better distance for the horse. In the grade 1, Vanderbilt. And I think it just brings in a tremendous amount of back class and a good consistency for running at kind of lower levels. I'd equate this to a lot lower than a grade 1 event. And the horse is 9 for 18 rather at Parx. He loves to race here at Parx, loves to win at Parx. He's 0 for 9 elsewhere. He's 9 for 18 here. So Twisted Ride for me, one of the local horses I think stands a strong chance here at 5-1. Yeah,
we both used the 3. I accidentally put a horse in that we didn't use.
Oh, okay.
So Twisted Ride was the 3rd on the ticket for me. Okay. I agree with you. The class drop to me was a big part of it. You mentioned it, back-to-back grade 1s. Now we're dropping back into Parx here. 9 for 18 at Parx, 6 other times the money. For all the reasons you mentioned, I think Twisted Ride makes a ton of sense. This horse has speed but doesn't need the lead, can win from just off the pace if need be. I think Twisted Ride definitely a player here in this spot.
Let's see. Next for me, I did go to the outside horse, the number 11 Top Gunner, and post is very much less than ideal, but notice that Brad Cox claimed this horse for $62,500. A 7-year-old gelding claimed him for $62,500 out of a non-win at Saratoga and runs him right back here. And Flavien Prat says, "Yeah, I'll ride that horse for you." I'm playing off the fact, okay, the horse has shown some ability, but for Cox to go, they're going to buy this horse out of this race and put him right into the Park Sprint. They must see something they really like in the 11 Top Gunner. So with Pratt aboard, I'll use the 11, but I could understand short price, outside post, step up in class. There are reasons to be hesitant about him.
Yeah, this was a weird one for me. You mentioned claimed it for $62,500. They passed on claiming this horse for $50,000 on opening day at Saratoga.
Yeah,
then wait until later and claim it for more money. I didn't think either that $52,000 or the $62,500 were very good races. I remember handicapping both of those races. Mm-hmm. I didn't put Top Gunner on top in the $62,500 field. It's very hard for me then just to put him on top here. And I don't disagree with anything you said. Like, it's not all that common for Brad Cox to only 25 forces off the claim in the last 5 years. That's crazy when you think about that for Brad Cox. He's not one that claims horses very often. Now, does very well with them, 25% negative ROI. He's $1.80, so but still a solid return on investment there when you're looking at horse racing terms. Has run in fields that are this level. That was back when this horse was 5. So
yeah, it's been a minute.
2 years ago, like you totally could say this one definitely competes at this level. So I thought Top Gunner was an interesting horse. My bias against those two Saratoga races are the reason Top Gunner didn't end up making the ticket for me, especially when I saw the morning line at 4-1. Like I don't think Super Chow and Top Gunner should be anywhere near the same price in this race. And that Brad Cox feel is the reason why I think that you're seeing this horse at this price. For me, I went right to the inside of the 11. Give me the 10. 90% Maddie here. Was the favorite against Gordian Knot last time out here at Parx and State Bred $100,000 race. Kind of wide the whole way. Didn't really get the job done. But prior to that, ran in grade 2, grade 3 races. I thought ran really well. 3 back against Joey Freshwater at Backwaduck in the grade 3 run happy. The last race is just so bad. It's one of those that I'm like, yeah, just scratch it off. Like I can't give you the overall reason why it was so bad, but it was just such an anomaly. It's very easy for me to just say, yep, we're just gonna say that race wasn't a good race and has run well at Parx before. So that to me isn't a big issue. I can't really just say like, yeah, this horse needs to be at a different racetrack. I mean, has a 90 buyer at Parx to start off the 4-year-old season. And that was over a fast Parx track. They has run over the muddy track here at Parx a couple times, tried him out on 16th a couple times here at Parx. But I don't have an issue with the track. 4 for 11, so it's been successful here. Like I said, went to Saratoga, went to Backwaduck, raced in these graded stakes, faced very good horses. The last race is the one that's really the hang-up, right? That is the one where you're just like, well, at that day, if I can't give you like a dead-on reason, I'm usually just going to give the horse an excuse and say you just draw a line through it. And to me, that's one of those where it's like, it was so bad. It's too bad to believe. I'll just draw a line through 90% Maddie and go back to the 3 prior races where I think she completely fits.
That's fair. My knocks on the horse, because I did give a good look at it because of the graded stakes placings. 90% Maddie's got 4 wins at Parx, but a lot of those happened, I think actually almost all of those happened much earlier in the career. Yeah, to start things off. So if you look at the last 5 races at Parx, there was the Paige McKenney State Bred good second, and that was off of a layoff. But last time out, 5th beaten 8 lengths. The Gallant Bob last year, 4th beaten almost 6. The Smarty Jones, 5th beaten almost 16. Before that, the Crowd Pleaser Stakes, 3rd beaten almost 18. I mean, 2 of those were wet tracks, but it's like when this horse steps up to stakes company, not as a 2-year-old anymore, specifically at Parx, it's like what happened to the horse that at 2 loved the shit out of Parx? It's just kind of a weird anomaly with this horse.
It's a funky horse. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, because you could also say, well, you draw a line through the mile of 16th races at Parx, and you draw a line through the muddy races at Parx. It's like, you're drawing a line through a bunch of these different races, and to me, you kind of focus in and you say, okay, let's look at the 2 7-furlong efforts this as a 4-year-old. And the first one was good enough for me to be willing to scratch off the second one, especially when you have the back class or the back love of Parx where this horse was successful at 2 going over the track. So it's gambling. It's horse racing, right? You're trying to project which horse is going to be able to run back to that race. And I think 90% Maddie has enough of a chance to. And I think we're going to get better than 6-1 too. I think this horse gets overlooked at the window because of that last race.
I see people asking what a Gordian knot is, or Gordonian, if you're Chris Milo, Gordian knot. It's a metaphor for a complex problem. It's a complex knot associated with Alexander the Great, but it's also the name of the Bible for Delta Sigma Phi fraternity that I was a part of. So, and not just because of that, but because I do think little hunch play with my fellow Curtis Melo. The last horse on the ticket for me was the 2 Gordian knot. Good back class, brings in races finishing 3rd to Dean Delivers. Dean Delivers, I mentioned, is 4 for 4 as a dirt sprinter this summer. All in stakes races. I'd love to see him go to the Breeders' Cup Sprint because I think he's earned his way there. Gordian Knot last time out wins the Jumpstart Stakes, and it was in a race where V-Sun is in this spot. Your pick, 90% Maddie, you're just saying, I'm going to scratch that off as a horrible effort. But this is the horse that won that race and kind of won it going away late. He does his best running with the target, so should be able to get that here. He's 5 for 8 at Parx. He's 3 for 4 at the distance, and again, it's Jamie Ness with Michael Sanchez at Parx. Like I've been covering a lot of Parx working for FanDuel. Those guys win a lot of races together.
What frat were you in?
Delta Sigma Phi.
Did you guys ever try the Ness juice there?
No, there was a lot of vile liquids I had to consume at different points, but none of it was thankfully as bad as nest juice.
The jungle juice, but no nest juice there.
Yeah.
The last race is just such an outlier. Like, and I guess the race before you could say was like the race before to me was a good race as well. But like, you look through this and it's tough because this horse was trained by someone other than Jamie Ness prior to the last 5 races. So you really focus in on those 5 races. You scratch off the with anticipation because it was over the turf. So now you're looking at 4 races. You've got the first race off of the bench there that wasn't great. And then you've got these last 3 better numbers in the 2 losses than the 2 wins. Like I couldn't get there. Not at the
That's
price.
fair.
I don't disagree with anything you said. Ness is scary as heck in these races at Parx, especially when Sanchez is riding, and especially when you know that there might be a little bit extra there inside that horse. So I would not. I wouldn't be shocked if the Knot wins this one, but at the same time, I'm not going to get there, especially 6-1.
Did you ever have to elephant walk as the pledge? I did not have to do the elephant walk. No. And if you don't know what that is, Google it, but not on a work computer. Did we hit all the horses that you're going to use in this race?
Yeah, maybe don't Google it. Just 3, 5, 6, 10 for me. Yeah, I'm going 40. Right.
Did you talk about Recruiter?
Yeah, we talked about Recruiter.
You did. Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry, it was the second horse for you. That's right. My bad. We got so deep talking about Gordian knots and elephant walks and 90% Maddie instead of 100% Maddie.
Yeah, seriously. What's the other 10%?
Listen, I had a girlfriend in high school for about a year named Maddie, and whenever she went 100% Maddie, it wasn't
a good thing.
No, it was not. It was not a good thing whatsoever. Thank you for joining us to talk about Parx. Big Philly 5 mandatory payout Saturday, September 21st. We'll give out our tickets one last time for the audio listeners. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitter or whatever, take a look down below. You can see them right there. And hit the all button in the first leg. And if anybody draws in, yep, they're going on to hopefully I'm hoping the turf sprint has a huge price bomb. Going to single the 1 in the second leg, single the 6 in the third leg, 7-8 in the fourth leg, and then 2-3, 6-11 to close it out. Mr. Somich.
Play a 50-cent ticket for me. I'm going 3, 5, 7, 8 with 1, with 3, 6, with 2, 4, 5, 8. With 3, 5, 6, 10, that'll be $64 for 50 cents.
I ran into her a couple years ago at almost about this time at a friend's funeral, but she was there, and we talked for a while. Like that's like the one ex that I have that I didn't like Nagasaki the bridge on, but she's still it's just one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, like within 2 minutes, I was like, no, this was Yep, I remember you. I remember.
Yeah. I remember why this happened, and I remember why this ended.
Lovely woman. There's a lid for every pot, and just different people there. What do you got going on this weekend? I know you're not going to be traveling to Vegas, so you get to spend a little time at home. That's exciting.
There's a lid for every pot. I've not heard that one before.
You haven't heard that one before?
No, I like that one. That's a good one. I'm going to use that one this weekend. Yeah, I'll be on VSiN tomorrow, 1, 2, 3 or Eastern time on Money Moves with Patrick Myers. The two of us doing the Friday show, talking everything college football and NFL. Then Saturday and Sunday, normal times for Ready, Set, Bet. Saturday from got to make sure I do the math right here. From 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern, including 9 to 10 is the contest show. So if you're in Circa Survivor or Circa Millions, we release all of the picks for both Survivor and Millions and talk to Jeff Benson and Derek Stevens over there at Circa, the owner and the head of the sports book. And then Sunday, lead up into the Sunday night football game. So 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock Eastern time. Everything in the first 20 minutes is all about that Sunday night game, what we're betting, and then jump into the following week with the look-ahead lines for week number 4 in the NFL. And let's go Jets tonight, because our boy Dr. Tang here in the chat, he and I and one of our friends Tyler Hoffman have a Survivor ticket. And I don't know if you followed Survivor Magic. There's a Circa Survivor is $14.2 million. There's only 3,877 entries left after 2 weeks. Last week was absolute carnage with over 50% of the pool going down. Me and Dr. Tang and Tyler all alive, and we are on the Jets tonight in week 3. So need a go big green win here tonight against the Patriots.
Don't hate that one. I absolutely loved playing Aaron Rodgers to throw at least one interception on opening night. That was about the easiest -114 I think I've ever cashed, but very happy about that one. And the overreaction from week one gets me every year. I'm like, God, everybody's freaking out about 1 week. You got 17 more. Most of these teams are just trying to figure out cohesion. So of course there's gonna be some anomalies, and you see that happen in week two. So things evening out a little bit after 2 weeks. Do you have an early leading to week 3 Super Bowl pick for us?
I'd still think the Chiefs are the best team in football. I've been on that bus since they won the Super Bowl last year. It's a team that's going to get better as the season goes along. The defense will get better. The offense will get better. They have no threat inside the division. I still think the Raiders are the second best team in that division, even though the Chargers started out 2-0 against. In one game against the Raiders, they should not have won. They were the worst team on the field. Another against the Panthers, which then benched Bryce Young. What a train wreck that trade is. I'd still take the Chiefs if I had to pick one team. If I'm taking a shot, I would take Seattle as the shot. 60-1 right now, 50-1 right now to win the Super Bowl. I think they win the NFC West. I think that defense gets significantly better as the year goes along. Their offensive line gets healthy in 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. They get 2 offensive linemen back as well, and I love the fact that you get new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator, who both should get better as the season progresses. People are talking about Mike McDonald, who came from Baltimore as the new head coach. Not enough people talking about Ryan Grubb, who came from University of Washington as the offensive coordinator, and the difference we're seeing in Geno Smith, specifically from like an air yards perspective. He's throwing the ball downfield now, and with 3 weapons, I think that makes a big difference for him. Shadi, any worry about Pacheco? Yeah, a little bit, but he's supposed to be back in 6 to 8. And I don't think that they need him to be able to win the division.
Exactly.
And he'll be, by the time the playoffs roll around, he's 100%, and he'll have less wear and tear on him. It's a high ankle injury, so not something that is all that concerning from a re-injury perspective. It's not like a hamstring. It's not an injury that you're not going to be 100% from 1 or 2 weeks after you come back from it. So I think everything kind of plays out. We'll see what happens, but I do think he's going to do well. And yes, you're right. The Seahawks have not played anyone yet, but I do like the fact that
it's been 2 weeks.
They've switched up schemes on both sides of the ball, and I think get better as the season goes along. That's why I don't want to just sit here and be like, yeah, I'm going to take the Chiefs, the favorite. No one, not mention a long shot. I think Seattle's the interesting long shot.
I like that play with the Chiefs. A team that is currently 2-0 that I think by the end of week 4 will be 2-2, and people will start panicking on. And that's when you jump on them. The Chargers. They've got to go to Pittsburgh for a 10 a.m. body clock game this weekend. That's going to be tough. And then they have to fly back home and host the Chiefs the week after. And then they get their first bye. Then after that, it's Broncos, Cardinals. They've got the Cleveland Browns a little later on the schedule. They host the Titans. The Ravens come to them. That might be an interesting one. But then they got to go to the Falcons for a 10 a.m. game. They might lose that a little later. But I think the Chargers are going to, at the end of the season, they've got Bucks, Broncos, Patriots, Raiders. I think they've got a good chance to end the season on a big upswing. So don't play them now. You'll get a better price after they struggle with the Steelers and lose to the Chiefs in week 4.
I'm anti-Chargers. So we were against each other there. I don't like the talent.
Harbaugh!
Yeah, I know. Everyone loves Harbaugh, man. It's crazy. I get it. He's won everywhere, so you can't knock him for that. He probably cheats everywhere too. I think we can say that now after what happened at Michigan. I'm guessing he was not completely on the up and up in the NFL, but hey, now there was Belichick. You got to get your edge.
The things that he's been caught cheating on are the things that's like, okay, like that's a dumb thing for him to get called a cheater for, because it was somebody stealing signs when everybody does it. Okay, whatever. And then he also got in trouble because he was giving them like too much good food at the player food tables. It's like, well, that's bullshit. Like, feed your damn players. You're a multi-million-dollar organization. Feed them cream cheese with their bagels.
I agree with you on the food. I disagree with you on the stealing signs, because you can't be that dumb. You can't be that dumb. You shouldn't get caught. Like, that's
he wasn't the one that was dumb. It was the intern. If
you know what the intern's doing, you should be like, hey, bro, maybe don't bring like a freaking camcorder.
He has to run a multi-million-dollar organization. He's got to always be worrying about finding the next recruit, the next big thing, dealing with all the boosters, dealing with the Walmart Wolverine fans. Yes, Chris Mills guy. He's exactly what a football coach. He's an ultra-competitive lunatic. He is.
No, I don't disagree with that. And I actually think the Chargers are going to be very good in 2 years. I just don't think that the turnaround is this year. And that's why maybe they make the playoffs. I don't think they do, but maybe they make the playoffs. But I think they get their talent deficiency hits them right square in the face once they make it there.
Well, let's close things out. I'm going to be on FanDuel Friday evening, 5 to 8 Pacific, and then Saturday, Sunday, 9 to 12:30 in the morning, again, Pacific time. And then, back with Caleb Keller on Monday and Tuesday. Have a lot of fun working with him. He's a great guy. You know this. I'm telling this the other people. Caleb Keller is a really great guy. So I hope to see you over there. Also, Aaron and I, and you're invited, but I know you got a busy schedule, in 37 minutes from now, the Hawthorne live show. We're going to have Hawthorne's feed live here on the YouTube channel, so you can actually see the track feed. We'll be showing that live, telling you what we think. Last week, Aaron and I and Dennis Trusty, that we were the three. We hit the pick 3.
Ooh.
In the late pick 3. We hit the trifecta with each of our top picks, completed the trifecta in all 3 races. We were smoking, and Dennis was picking like 20-1 shots to finish in the trifecta, and it was working out well. So love to see you guys over there. Join us. It's a lot of fun. It's also Aaron and I completely unfiltered at this point. He encourages that from me, and we had a lot of fun with Dennis on, and it's a good time. So please join us over there for that. We would love to see you. It's going to start at 2:45 Pacific time. Figure it out from there.
8, 9, and 10 horse fields, 2 of them on turf, no scratches.
Hey, I haven't even looked at it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you have full fields, 2 turf races, maiden special weight going 5.5 in the 7th with a 10 horse field. Then you've got with $12,000 claimers on the dirt in the 8th, and then you close it out with a starter optional claiming going 5.5 on the turf. So 2 turf sprints as well. Some interesting trainers that are in some of these spots as well. So there should be fun 3 races.
Yeah, I'm excited for that now. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. Follow on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kalleward. He's at Somobomb18, number 1, number 8. Find us on VSiN and FanDuel TV all weekend long for football and horse racing bets. We'll be back next Thursday for another Pick 5 show. Ooh, Santa Anita's going to be back. Maybe we'll go to Santa Anita for that, and we'll find out. Until then, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this weekend. And Shohei Ohtani, stolen base number 50. Not too shabby for a pitcher.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.